Good evening. Hello, everyone. We are back from the JS Institute of Design with another special webinar in the series of Discover Design. It's really interesting today. We have a guest from Kathmandu, and he's going to talk to us about integrating bamboo and earth in design. Let me quickly give you a background to Discover Design. It's a series of webinars presented by JS Institute of Design to inform all our participants about interior space design and any related subject. So far, we have held 26 webinars, and we started this webinars in April 2020 to continue to inform our participants in what design is, what happens in design, the various contextual information and viewpoints about design. Today we bring to you architect Nripal Adhikary from Kathmandu. And I have some really interesting things to talk about him. But in the meantime, let me just also introduce myself. I'm Nain Xiao, and I'm the Dean at GS Institute of Design. We are a startup which commenced in February 2020 with a program in interior design which is for a length of 1.5 years, where for 6 months you will be doing internship, whereas the 1 year program introduces you to project-based learning for 4 kinds of projects. More about that later, but let me introduce Nripal Adhikary. I'm sorry, the Adhikary spelling is not correct. It is Adhikari. So Nepal, very interestingly, is going to talk about working in the Himalayas. You will see today what kind of the context that he works in. He's got his passion for bamboo and earth. He's going to introduce to us a bit about ancient building crafts and how he has learned from tradition, which he is applying to today's context. I want you guys to really pay attention to some extremely interesting work that you are going to be seeing. Also, in his own way, he wants to connect the craft with people, the planet, and shelter. So I will be calling him just a minute more. So Nripal is a graduate of City College of New York. He founded Abari. His company is called Abari in 2007. Uh, in order to reappropriate traditional materials like bamboo and earth in the contemporary architectural context. Uh, that's really a lofty idea, I must say, Nepal, and we are really keen to understand what you mean by that. So I also want to inform that while talking to him, he talks about his work, and he's also cited that when the earthquake of April 2015 struck Nepal, all of its structures survived unscathed, including 2 buildings that were built at the epicenter. It was a tragic event. It was something which one really saw a lot of loss of life. And if such structures could be made aware, if people could be made aware of this, I'm very sure we'd like to know more about it. So in the last 5 years, he's built structures such as government schools, libraries, community centers, homes, and luxury hotels, some of which we will see today. Um, Welcome, Nripal. Really happy to have you here. And I would like you to please talk to our participants and show them whatever you have done. And if you'd like to talk a little bit more about your experience. So welcome.
Thank you, Neem. It's very nice to be here. Yeah, we've been talking about this for a while. Yeah, it's great to share my work with your students whom we had experience working with in the last lockdown a year ago. So I'll start with my. So yeah, as you said, like I'm working with bamboo and earth, and my passion, my inspiration lies from the architecture that is built without the architects. The traditional ones that have survived for hundreds of years in different contexts, in different climates, in different with different cultural value, different worldviews. And ever since while I was studying architecture, this is like the mainstream architecture didn't really interest me. Actually, I'm not an architect, I'm an artist. So, and I started doing sculpture, like I was doing, working with wood a lot, and I was doing a lot with print making. And but there's something about space that really fascinated me. And uh, and but I was looking at that, and I couldn't find the inspiration in this traditional, in this what so-called conventional concrete and steel structure while I was in New York. Even though it's considered Mecca for architects, but I was like, there's something. I mean, it's nice and all fancy, but there's no soul. I couldn't really relate to those buildings, especially while coming from the mountains. Like I grew up looking at these houses, beautiful wooden houses, beautiful earthen houses. And I didn't have that, couldn't find that sensibility. So, and I was looking in different places. And my first, as a professional, my, uh, that inspiration came from New Mexico. They have beautiful earthen buildings, what we call like kacho mato or kacha mitti. And like they were building like these beautiful structures more than 500, 600 years old, and the tradition is still alive, where people are like building $1 million homes with these materials. And when you go enter these buildings, it has a different feeling. Like it smells so good. There's this wooden beams, uh, and the human scale, like not very straight corners, some like marks of hands, doing the plaster. It was, I was like, wow, this is something I want to do. And I learned with them. I stayed there for a while, and I learned how to build with earth. And then a part of me is thinking, these kind of traditions we have in our countries, and but we somehow we didn't investigate it enough, that we have not been able to put it in the modern context. For everyone, there is a dream, like there's, you live in an earthen houses, and when you make some money, you move to a concrete house, right? That's a benchmark, right? And but at a cost, at an economic cost. You like, traditionally, like community would come together and build beautiful houses that would cost nothing. And then like now, if you want to build a house, you need to take 30-year loan, 40-year loan. And I'm like, and this doesn't seem right. And so I was like, yeah, how can we put it in today's context? So I was like exploring like all this. And in Nepal is a little bit different than New Mexico, because it's tropical. There's a
Mhm.
lot of rain, there's a lot of earthquakes. So I was looking at other uh, tensile materials, fibrous materials that would go along this. Like
Mhm.
concrete is in itself is not strong, right? It needs steel, some kind of fibers to bind it. So I was thinking, like why don't we use natural fibers instead of steel?
Mhm.
So I was looking at different, like and I was in Africa, and like looking at this beautiful woven architecture, and I was like, wow, this is like how these, like those knots, those
Mhm.
joints. I'm like,
Mhm.
wow. And this building in Yemen, which is like 6 7 stories, uh, earthquake resistant, and it's hot desert. And when you are in there, it's so cool. It feels like something different, something very spiritual to it. Uh, so, and then I came back to Nepal, and I'm like, okay, I want to explore what's here. Like Nepal, it's, like we have the plains and we have the mountains within a relatively short duration. So I was exploring all these Tibetan style architecture, or uh, the Tarai architecture, like really exploring them.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at how they're doing the joints. I was looking at how they're building, what kind of natural pigments they were using. Like it was a world in itself. I felt I was more fascinated looking at these architecture than when I was in an architecture school. Like
Mm-hmm.
everything was like wow. And like some, like this, if you look at this building, was built at the epicenter with materials just from the grounds. It's everywhere, is like from locally beautiful woven, beautiful carved windows, doors. And this is not a house of a rich person. This is like like an average village person. And like a house with dignity. Like like today's architecture, there's a very big class hierarchy, like
Mm-hmm.
because housing is very expensive. But if
Correct.
you look at traditionally, like as I said, materials are free, wood is free. You go to the forest, you just cut wood, season it, uh, carve out your windows and doors and your beams. And then the walls are earthen or stone, they are also free. Like this is from the mountains, beautiful, like bonding of stones. It's like a sculpture. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, uh, or this house, this in Tarai, I was building something. Next to it was this earth and bamboo house, beautiful. Like they had wooden frames, and then they would weave bamboo and then do earth plaster and then do beautiful painting. And come monsoon, there'd be like some erosion, and it would need some repair. But they didn't take it as a chore. It was like a ritual. It was like every, like people would, uh, they would come together in this festival of Chhat, and they would repaint their house in different colors, in different theme every year. It's like a mural that's changing every year. um and I was like, I was also absorbing this. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, this. And in this or similarly, there's this beautiful bridge. There's also you find some in northeast, but it's a dead tradition. It's not even a dying tradition. Like they make this 30-meter long beautiful woven bamboo bridge to connect these places. But unfortunately, as in academic institutions, this was not taken seriously. Like these buildings are still considered kacha buildings, even though they have survived earthquakes. They have been there for hundreds of years. They were perfectly fine for the time. you know and so nobody was investigating these. Like I was looking at another, like this bridge is from Sikkim, like amazing bridge,
Wow.
like 30-meter bridge, like beautifully woven bridge. And unfortunately, like this is a photo, this is a real story. Like there's in Nepal is a lot of mountains now. They don't have bridges, so they use this steel
People.
cable. you
Oh.
know and like kids are crossing the rivers through this cable, and so scary. They have a small pulley and they just
Mm-hmm.
climb there. And I'm like, this is, if we had continued our tradition, imagine what kind of bridges we'd be building. We look at Swiss bridges because maybe they kept their tradition, and like but now, like, we've lost that tradition, and this is, we have to this make do with such risky, scary uh, enterprise. So just to give you an idea, on Nepal is, if you look at, this is overall map, this is from 2011, but things are
Mm-hmm.
changing rapidly. So
Right.
only 17% of the country is made with cement. Yeah. If you go, if you look down, there's some areas where less than 1% of the buildings are made with cement, 0.2%, like
Mhm.
amazing tradition. And in earthquake zone area, in a really cold area with beautiful carving, um, like if you look at areas adjoining Dehradun and all, like, like they have amazing like traditions with earth. But we've lost that. And now in this is Kathmandu, World Heritage Site. This has one of the highest number of World Heritage Sites, like about 9 of them. But this is what we've done to it. There's no identity. This could look like any other city, like any other South Asian city. There's no character, no identity. Like this place used to be a melting pot. People from Tibet came, like people from Bihar, like during uh, in 14th 15th century, like there's a lot of trade, when uh, yeah, it was a learning center. And like we've lost all that and created this ugly monolithic buildings. And then you imagine, you think, why build with concrete, which is so bad for your planet, it's so bad for your health as well. This is it can give you asthma, and because it's such a creates a very dry condition. It doesn't breathe. So there's and so people think like, oh, because it's strong, that's what we are told. But that's and we are told that the buildings that are hundreds of years, which have survived hundreds of earthquakes, are not strong, they are katsa. And it's an illusion, it's a construct, it's a fallacy. Last earthquake, we saw big concrete buildings came down
Mm.
at the epicenter. you know
Right.
and it's not that all the concrete buildings came down, but many did. And many earthen buildings also survived, like this stone building. I documented this at the epicenter, not a single scratch. Beautiful roof, beautiful walls, like 3 stories, amazing, no scratch. So so in this regard, so I created this organization called Abari. It's not an NGO. I wanted to be an enterprise.
Mhm.
I didn't want to just rely on charity. Because I thought it has, if there is any validity to what uh, I am proposing, and my hypothesis that
Mhm.
people will adopt these earthen buildings if it's given a chance. So that was my hypothesis. So I wanted to take this. I didn't want to work as a conservationist. I'm not like saying, oh, these buildings are amazing, let's preserve them. But I'm saying, no, let's take certain elements from this, put it in today's context, in modern context. Things have changed. We're not living in 1950s or 1800s. Like, how can we put it in urban context, in contemporary context? And when we did that, like, it was a great idea, but nobody kind of trusted us. It's an expensive enterprise, right?
Mhm.
So there's two materials that I wanted to explore. One was bamboo, because it's abundant.
Mhm.
In Nepal, we have about 54 species of bamboo. Out of them, like 3 are very strong, structural. They are like spring. Like if this is bamboo, if there's an earthquake, it will sway
Mhm.
and then come back to shape. Like when we were in the last earthquake, we literally saw like our buildings, like it was like swaying like this. But then you'd be scared, but then it would just come back to shape. You'd feel like so safe in there, like in a
Mhm.
spring. It's earthquake resistant. It's it's so much part of our cultural identity. Like from like when a kid is born, you put them in a beautiful bamboo cradle. Yeah. Or when someone dies, you take them in a bamboo, like you make a frame and then you take them. Uh, so but one problem with bamboo, such an amazing material. So as asking everyone, and they said, yeah, it's very strong, it's very beautiful, you can do beautiful stuff with it. But the problem is it doesn't last very long. And I'm like, okay, if it doesn't last very long, I'm sure there are ways to treat them. We can use modern science if we have to. So I was like, I started exploring and zooming into bamboo. And so this, if you look at bamboo, it's literally like these nodes, pipes, these
Right.
vessels, so which are stuck together. In engineering, pipes are one of the strongest, but these are like even composites of
Mm.
pipes, like it's a stronger, even stronger. So but in these vessels, uh, it's called vascular bundle, there's this sugar nodes, you know that gives its energy. That's why it grows super fast. And so I was thinking, like, maybe there are ways to like push the sugar out. And so mm, and what that was one problem, and the other problem was joinery. This is different. It's not like wood, which is square, right? And then you can rectangular. It's geometric, right? So you can connect them together. So bamboo. So I had to explore many different joints. We looked at different joints, from traditional wooden joints to metal joints, and this we developed this metal joint which is super strong. So it can accommodate different diameters of bamboo, and you can pull it together, and then you can build beautiful roofs with it, right? You can connect two, three, four bamboos together. And so that was like a major innovation. And the other one was the bamboo treatment. We started like treating, like applying pressure and treating it. And it was magic, like just two problems, like technical problems. We solved it. But the third problem was the biggest problem, which was the problem of perception.
Mm.
It's not a technical problem. Technical problems, you use your brain, it will work. But perception needs a uh, it takes time, right? Can you excuse? I have to drink water.
Oh, yeah.
Um, uh,
Yeah, please have a break. And in the meantime, I would invite you guys to start putting down your questions in the question and answer box. Okay, Nripal, go ahead.
So yeah, so the treatment, we started looking at different ways of treating, and it worked. So, and then like fighting public perception, it was the biggest one, right? So we did one project before the earthquake, like we were like young people and like trying to do this. People were like, yeah, it's a great idea, but they're like, yeah, I mean, they're like sometimes like complete rejection. Like they're like, hey, try to be modern, why don't you steal, or then others were like, yeah, it's a great idea, but it may not work, in our. So we started, my first project was I wanted to build a community hall,
Mm.
because like public houses, one, I thought, like, if you give materials to people, they can build it. They've shown it in the past. Yeah.
Mm.
But if you, like, in public spaces, like schools and community centers are more like a recent idea, right? To like, so hospitals, so we needed bigger spaces for that. So we started connecting these bamboo and build like halls. So we made this in a village, just using local bamboo and like connecting them and building. In the beginning there was an outright rejection. People were even hostile to us. Like, why are you building, why are you spending, wasting all this money and resources in building that doesn't last? And then we built it, and we built like a beautiful structure, and when they came in, it was like, wow, it's great. It's not what I had thought.
Mm.
And slowly, like, people started they're like, okay, interesting, and we wanted to do schools, because in our regions, the schools are government schools are so neglected, like they want to make cheap as possible. They use cement blocks and corrugated roof, metal truss, the cheapest as possible, and which doesn't even have the basic functioning, because it's hot in summer, cold in winter. If it rains, it makes noise. So I was like, why don't we use local materials? So we used like stone. If you look at these are all chisel stone, a lot of work, but worth it. Then we had these tie bands. There we use concrete, and then we use bamboo, like to hold the roof with woven mats, which gives that insulation and
Mm,
also feels nice. And on top of that, we put slates, local slates, you know. So everything was locally sourced. We had big windows, a lot of open spaces. We used these drain pipes to bring out windows. We added some like bottles, from the stores to recycle to let the light in. We did beautiful earthen plaster. This is no like just earth and some fibers, and we did this plaster. And we're like, okay, you can use local resources and you can create something inspiring. That was the idea. And we had limited budget. We didn't even have budget to build furniture, but it was like, but to show that it can be done. And this was in a region which had no public transportation. I mean, no road, forget transportation. So, and after that was like, wow, it's a great project. I feel good, but I cannot sustain like this. It's so hard. I cannot be like uh, you know have a family and build like one school in 4 years. That's I have to pay my bills. So I was like, kind of depressed, after this. And then what happened was there was an earthquake, and this building happened to lie right at the epicenter of the earthquake. I mean, talking about coincidence. And I was very scared. Everything had collapsed, in Gorkha, this region. And 3 days later, I went there. Not a single scratch, not even a tile had moved, nothing. And I was like, wow. It
wow.
was kind of like, I knew it was safe, it was great, but it was like a vindication, like it was. So after that, we were like, everybody started we all of a sudden we became famous, all these young like guys doing stuff. So we started so we proposed to a government to build. We had to build. After the earthquake, there were like about 40,000 schools that got destroyed, and so we said, okay, here's a design, here's how you connect them. We are not going crazy with the design. We're taking your design and just making it more livable, more humane, more inspiring, right? So we added, so this is the, the U-shaped government building. So we separated it to make it more modular, earthquake resistant, and added some play spaces in between to make it um, so when the kids can, go out and play. And added nice insulation, nice roof, nice earthen paint, wooden panels, nice blackboard. Uh, and we, as a public service, we put all the drawings out, all the designs, all the details out on our website, and and on prints, and as open source document. And it was really inspiring to see like so many downloads. We had for this also, and for transitional homes and shelters, there was thousands of downloads, and like people were like, it was um so then we started building. Like, this is our first school. Like the wall you see is just earth.
Mm-hmm.
not baked stone. And
Correct.
then we have a bamboo ceiling, uh, a lot of open space. Uh, like we had these bands of concrete bands. It's more for the psychological comfort, safety. Oh,
Uh-huh.
I feel safe, but we didn't really need that. And being a public school, that we wanted to advertise that. And then we had this beautiful bamboo roof. Even the furniture is made with bamboo, which you can take. It's a modular. You can make a square. You can make a U. You can make rectangle. You can just carry it because it's lightweight. You can even write on it. So yeah, we built this, and using this technology, about like 25, 30 schools were built.
Wow.
uh, but unfortunately, like we were hoping more and more schools would be built, but government subsidized steel, the government subsidized bricks. So and so a lot of contractors want fast, like
Mm.
cheap commissions and all. So they were building with that. But many people use this. It was great.
Can I
But
ask you
my
a
hope.
question, Nripal?
Sorry.
Can I ask you a
Hmm.
question here?
Please, please.
So while this was, I mean, it's a fantastic idea to have it as an open source. Uh, what did you do about the skills that would be required in different parts of the country to build such a structure? Because I'm assuming that perhaps uh, the skills, were they met to fulfill the requirement of such buildings, of the new buildings that you're proposing? What did you do about that, or what did the government do about that?
Actually, it's a very, like my personal forte, or my taste is rammed earth.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll show you in the other buildings. It's it's beautiful. It's monolithic, but it's very technical.
Mm-hmm.
So, and looking at the situation, I said, okay, people will not be able to build that, even though I have trained like many people, but it's not enough looking at the scale. So I took, I did lots of experiments. Then I took what people already know. That's bricks, like they know how to lay bricks. So I just changed the bricks and made it with earth. That was a major. So, it's easy to scale. And the second thing about bamboo is, you know, what I made is I tried to de-skill it. So I try to kind of mechanize it, so the joints are industrial, there's metal joints. And so you just not bolt it and then make a building. So anyone can build it. So we do a lot of modification to the design so it becomes accessible, just like, so it doesn't need like complex joinery system that we use in other buildings. So we wanted me boom, 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 easy to do it.
Oh,
So that's how we try to scale it in the context. Yeah,
correct. So this is not just about design, but also reskilling the craftspeople and perhaps finding easier solution, technical solutions for such initiatives. Thank you. Go ahead.
exactly. And even the bricks, like just coming like to this, it was the brick making was so simple. The women were making it, you
Mm-hmm.
know. It was like you just put earth in this hopper. You can get brick machines on the market, but they were too big. It was very like masculine. It need like two people to hang. I was like, no, that's not what I want. It has to be very simple. So we created this machine. Instead of making big bricks, we made very simple bricks, like and which is easy to carry, easy to handle. You can throw it, like so. Um, and you don't need to compress it as much as the other bricks. So it was like, like women were making these bricks. Uh, it was like the beauty of this is all the cost that goes into building these is local cost, you know. The labor cost was 35%, material cost 50%. Now that's kind of switched. But whatever the cost, it was a local cost. We needed some foreign materials, that was 11%. But like sometimes people say, oh, how is your building? Is it very cheap or is it not? They always come about the cost. And I tell them, whatever cost it is, it's a good cost,
Mhm.
because most of the cost is going to people. It's staying locally, it's not making some industrialist rich, right? So that's what. And then we did also housing, like like after that, like after the earthquake, we did this rammed earth. Our philosophy is like, you're not doing a charity. If the house you build has to be so good that you would feel like you can stay there, right? And so we built this model house for this single mom, with using local earth. And
Mhm.
then we rammed it together. And then we added um, terracotta tiles, mud plaster, three rooms. One room she could rent out for guests. As, like, as tourism is pretty big in Nepal. So the idea was to make the neighbors think that, oh, tourists would come to earthen houses, so let's build with earth, to give that glamour. So we do that. And also part of our thing is we also do a lot of like this is a house under construction. This is for sukumbasi, which means homeless people. Yeah. So the government is trying to build, so we like saying, okay, what's your budget? 2 lakh rupees. Okay, we'll build a house for 2 lakh rupees.
Yeah.
This mill small, like, and this inside, like just using like stone, like, uh
Mhm.
like
So,
just to show that. Mhm.
just
Sorry.
a question here. What would be the maintenance cost in the future? How often do you have to repair or maintain it? And how long would it last so that it becomes sustainable for somebody who is wanting to choose such a construction?
I mean, this will last forever. As I told you, like the bamboo is treated, fully treated.
Mm-hmm.
uh, Fully treated bamboo, like in there's one of the biggest research done was in FRI Institute in Dehradun. They did a lot of work in bamboo in 50s. So they built one structure in 1954 or something, and it's still there. It's outside, a lot of rain, a lot of like sunshine, no problem.
Okay.
17 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but what we do is, even though it's a like it's an organic material, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to decay. That's the beauty of it, right? But it doesn't have to decay like in 2 years, 3 years. So it should decay in like 60, 70, 80 years. So but we want to extend the life, and we have big overhangs. Like, again, this is a very low cost housing. And then we do stone bamboo wall. We plaster with earth, and then we do lime coating. So it works as preservative also. And
Mm-hmm.
also lime is a breathable material. Uh, and it creates waterproofing membrane. It's a so yeah, it lasts forever. It lasts your lifetime. And so we also, again, these are housing, we just give it out to people. Let's build, build, build. We don't have to, because there's enough orders for us. This is
Mm-hmm.
not like we putting all this information out. And so, as an architect, as a designer, you want to do bigger stuff. So what we in our uh, practice, what we try to do is, we say we'll do monumental buildings that, we want to, our job is to inspire people.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a collective solution. We don't have an individual solution. Every day I get phone calls saying, hey, can you build me something, can you build something? And I'm like, yeah, I cannot. We don't have that many people, but we want to build something that's monumental, that inspires. As in the beginning, and as I said, perception is our biggest challenge, right? So After the earthquake, as I told you before, there's no one was interested in building with earth before the earthquake. And after the earthquake, we got an opportunity to build a public library right in the center of Kathmandu in Patan,
Mm,
in the World Heritage Site, like this huge gallery. So we built this monumental, like bamboo structure, like to show the beauty of it. We showed all the joints, we showed the roof, and we built it such a way that roof is independent of the walls, right?
mm,
So if there's an earthquake in the worst, even if the wall falls, the roof is still there, and it's lightweight, it's ductile, and we use the earthen plaster. We did use metal in for joints, for frames, but we use earthen plaster. It's a double height. This is what it looks from outside, like tapered wall,
mm,
glass windows, combining traditions with modernity, like thick earthen walls. We put a concrete band for earthquake safety. So it's finding what's the best, like being very judicial in terms of material. Like, okay, we need light, so I don't mind putting glass window,
mm,
but I don't need to put cement in my walls because earth does a better job, so I'll do with earth. And I know like bamboo is strong, so I'll use bamboo for the roof. But I know I need uh, I don't want moisture, so I'll use cement as a moisture barrier. So we are not like fanatics, like, oh,
mm,
earth. Like
mm,
we like saying like what's the best use. I like concrete is best for foundations. I think it's a great material. Put it in the foundation, you know or for reinforcement. But rest, walls you can do earth. Ceilings you can do earth. Here's some of the joints, and this is like like the truss. It looks like a spider web. Yeah,
mm,
that's how it's built. It's built like a web, like it's just one module that keeps
mm,
repeating. This is from the outside. And yeah, after this, people started believing in us, so we started doing multi-stories. So this is a two-story. uh, this is the rammed earth technique I was talking about. These are not bricks. So
mm,
these are made like how they do it in concrete, the shear wall. You put foam work, you put earth, and then you ram it. You ram, and then keep ramming it. And then you can be very uh, playful with the colors, all these reds going to yellows, and like it's while you're ramming, you do that thing. You reinforce it, like, so it looks good, it's
mm,
organic, it's even edible.
mm,
It's like you have these bands. And um, so this is a school we just finished, and we have a lot of open space, and with the earth gives that robustness, and the bamboo gives that openness. So it's a great material, so it's a great combination. So we created this public school again, closed space with next to open space. Kids can go and be in a warm, safe environment, and if they want, they can go out and also study. This under trees. And yeah, so these are like we collecting water. Instead of flowers, we're planting lettuces and tomatoes. So they
yeah,
can uh, use that in the canteen. So people are aware of where it's coming from. This is the classroom. Big windows. Like you see these reds and yellows. It's
mm,
not paint. It's the earth itself. It is rammed.
wow. So, Nripal, I have to ask you to please, there are a lot of questions ready for you. So, would you take us through whatever is the remaining bit quickly so
Okay.
that they can have a chance to talk to you?
Okay. So yeah, so these are like different views, and this is it's an earthen house, a modern house built with earth, built at the epicenter.
Wow.
Using all these modern elements, traditional elements, merging of together. These are like rooms. It's a pretty modern rooms. It smells really good when you're in there. nice wooden floor. The kitchen, this kitchen has traditional stove, also earthen stove. It has a modern baking also, like, so our idea is using being natural doesn't mean like go live in the forest or like going backwards.
Correct.
These you can do it in like I live in Kathmandu, right in the center of Kathmandu, and we have a small house made with earth, so it's also possible in urban context,
I just want to
so
ask you
you
a
can do.
question over here. You see, I just wondered how much would it cost anybody who wants to build something for themselves? Let's say a small house of 1,500 square feet, perhaps having two bedroom. What do you think? And would it survive in any weather? If it's really hot or perhaps dry, would such a material survive?
Yeah, I mean, there are earthen buildings we've built in Chitwan, which is hot, tropical. There's just 1.5 meters of rain every year, no
Mm,
problem. Or in the Himalayas,
yes.
it does work. And the cost, it all, again, as I said, it varies. It's also the cost is about the economy of scale. If more and more people do it, the cost
Mm,
will come down, right? Because the materials are like natural materials, it's available. But now the cost is competitive with the steel because there's limited people doing it. It's like more artisanal.
mm,
Yeah, so in terms of cost, like let's say 1,500 square feet would cost about what, 35 lakhs rupees, 40 lakhs, like
Indian
something
rupees.
Indian rupees.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I think that gives us all many hopes to consider something in future. So yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So no, we also doing like, after the earthquake, there's one of the biggest costs they bringing about the cost was transportation costs. So we
Ah,
like, and we
mm,
like, yeah, why don't we just make a small pulley to transport? We live in the mountains,
ah,
like this is how we are doing.
oh,
And like again, yeah, we think like these community halls. As I said, we just want it to be out in public, so more people use it. And so, just to end, like for me, like sustainability is like getting a full cycle.
mhm,
So where your material is coming from. I can tell like my beams coming from this farm. That the intimacy. It's not. It feels good. I know like where it's coming from. There's a story. Many times we are just living in houses that are given to us. We buy it. There's no story behind it. But there's like these houses are like have stories. Like the bamboo. Where the materials coming from which forest, from which farmer. It's kind of like farm to table concept, but for housing. So we did this experiment. Like so we need a lot of bamboo. We need good
mm,
quality bamboo. A good bamboo architecture is good only if you have like good bamboo, good source of bamboo. So
correct.
we are working with communities to plant bamboo, and the beauty of bamboo is it's very fast growing, it's regenerative, it can grow in sandy soil, in any soil.
Mhm,
So there's this example, like we had this land in 2010.
mm,
2011 there's a big flood, you can see all these white sand deposits,
mm,
and then we started planting bamboo. 3 years later it's like this,
wow.
and 7 years later it's become a bamboo forest. So we don't have to plant. So along the river we're doing this whole campaign of planting bamboo, regenerating, creating livelihood. So that's to show that you can create an economy which is not extractive like the modern economy, which is just
Mm,
taking from mother earth. But this can be regenerative, like you take, you give, you take, you give. uh, so yeah, we work with farmers, we give seedlings to them, they plant it on riverbanks, we buy it back from them. So it's an economy where everyone wins, right? It's to end, we have, uh, I felt like, okay, the bamboo you can eat, You can make fibers with bamboo. You can build a house with bamboo. Now I need like a transportation, and my life is set. So we created this bamboo bicycle. In our mountains we need like
Yeah.
big fat tires. So this
So this
so
is a
we
single
created.
seater, I assume, and you can have
Yeah,
more.
yeah. This is also as electric, so you can go, like go in
Oh,
the mountains. So
lovely.
yeah, that's our hobby. Like this is. So just to end, like our money is, I mean, it has all benefits. It's not just us who is doing this, but if you naturally work with bamboo, you create this amazing impact, not just for yourself, but to people and planet. And our modern industry is so extractive. All it gives out is fumes. And
Mm,
our bamboo industry, you can take the fumes and give out nice oxygen to people.
mm.
So yeah, so I think if I haven't
Thank
bored
you.
people to.
Paul, this is really so inspiring. We keep on, I mean, as educators, we keep on talking to our students about when you introduce sustainability. I think your work is really exemplary for, and of course, some of our other designers as well, who have worked with a particular material with an ideology. And I see that being applied in many walks of your life, in many walks of what the projects that you're working on. I have many interesting questions for you. So if you would like to just take a sip of water before you start answering them, and I'm going to read it out to you. Um, Rashmi has a question. How is bamboo treated before using it? Which three types are used in the structure? Does bamboo structure need any maintenance afterwards? Which I think has been sort of answered. But would you like to take this, Nepal?
So we use um, boron salt as a preservative. So
Mm-hmm.
we, as I showed in the slide, bamboo has a lot of sugar. So we take, and sugar is plants like sugar, like humans, I mean, but insects like sugar. So they
Mm-hmm.
come and eat that sweetness. So we get rid of that sweetness, and then you replace it with salt, basically. Uh, Salt that is not that doesn't leach, and it's like boron is one of the safest compound. It's actually it's found in riverbeds, very safe. It's also a fire retardant. So we use that, and once you use that, you don't need to maintain it forever. I didn't understand, what three types do you mean of?
So I don't know, at some point you might have mentioned that you mainly use three types of bamboo for the structure. So I don't know if you have anything
Oh,
of
okay.
that kind.
Oh, so we use Bambusa balkua, we use Bambusa nutan, we also using Bambusa bamboos, even Bambusa like guadua. Yeah, we do
So
use
you
them.
you had to literally educate yourself or undertake a research, thorough research before you even started moving into this direction. Was it before your education, or I mean, while you were being educated, or was it after your education?
It was after my education, like because wanted to in the education. No, yeah, of course, like no one teaches, uh, es- especially
Specific.
at that time, no one teaching about bamboo. Yeah, so it was my own self initiation.
Okay. Okay. So one more question. Gunika has a question. What are some of the bamboo's uses in furniture design and interiors? How can bamboo be used to beautify any of this? How can it be incorporated in the design part? Okay.
So see, bamboo is one of the most versatile materials. You can literally rip it, make
Mm.
beautiful strips. It's pliable. You can bend it. You can twist it. It's like like bamboo. Many people compare it to steel. They say it's as good as steel or as strong as steel. But I think that's a wrong comparison. Bamboo is better than steel. Steel is heavy. You cannot bend steel. You cannot like. Um, So, but it's like carbon fiber, which they use in aircrafts. You would compare bamboo with that. It's strong, it's flexible, it's pliable, and so it's up to your designer to use that part to, like design any furniture. And it's an amazing material. It's a lightweight, it looks good, it's amazing. I can go on forever, yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'm sure if you need more answers or deeper answers, perhaps you can write to us and we will forward that question later on to Nripal. Pavan Rana has a question on how have we assessed the performance of such bamboo joints? What about the performance of such buildings during fire?
Okay, so yeah, we did a test of those joints in the engineering school. We were surprised, like, when you pulling, we did a pull-out test because that's kind of load that you need, like when you pull it out. Because when you push it, bamboo takes the load, and like, but when you pulling it, that's when many times it gets weak. And we pulled it out, and one joint could take up to 3.5 tons. And many times it was so interesting to see the steel joint failed before bamboo, like so strong. um so yeah, so that, to answer that, we've done that test. And secondly, in terms of fire, uh, boron compound is a fire resistant material, and they've used the same material, the same treatment in Hawaii, state of Hawaii, and they did in University of Hawaii. They did the fire retardant test. It passes the American Building Code. It's as good as drywall, the fire retardant properties. So yeah, it makes it fire retardant.
Thank you. A question from Sampriya. What is the cost comparison of a concrete structure versus a bamboo structure for a similar size urban context space? What is the maximum height a structure can be reached when constructed by bamboo?
uh so the cost is, as I said before, it depends on the economy of scale. In urban areas now, it's difficult to get earth. You don't find earth, you don't find bamboo. Steel is the most cheapest now, because they just bring it to your house. There's so many people who know how to build with steel. And that's because of economy of scale. Traditionally, steel was very expensive because very few people made it. Now earth and bamboo is relatively expensive because very few people are doing it, very few skilled people, right? So, but the whole equation would change, more and more people would do it, right? If there's like, if you go out and, like, if you can call someone and say, hey, can you deliver bamboo to my house? It comes, it will be cheaper. If you can find labor, it will be cheaper. So so the cost is very fluid depending on where you are,
Mhm.
right? I don't know which urban context you are talking about, like, but in Nepal, it's getting more cheaper. But the thing is, steel and concrete is so subsidized that steel is the cheapest one for
Mm,
now. Bamboo it's about the same,
mm.
a little bit more. Yeah.
I hope that answers your question, Sampriya. So, Muhammad Qasim,
Oh no, so
sorry, you want to continue?
she also asked about the maximum height.
Right, right.
We've built up to 3 stories. But now we're building a monastery which is about 16 meters in height. So
Wow.
that's almost 6 stories. Yeah.
Wow. So it's going to be very grand and it's going to reach the grandeur of all these buildings that we have seen with stones and concrete.
Exactly.
Um, but sustainable. So I just want to go through some more questions, okay? Because we are running out of time. Mohammed Qasim is asking about, you talked about separating the design of school and building them separately. Can you assess the impact of design or joint design on earthquakes? How can we reduce the impact of earthquake in such buildings?
Mm,
So
I'm
he's
trying
talking
to
about a school
understand.
design where you separated the buildings, and that perhaps is one of the.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Yeah, because in earthquake, the safest building is a round building, because
Mm,
there's no corners. When there's an
mm,
earthquake, there's a pressure and the corners bend.
mm,
So the rounds are the safest.
mm,
And second safe is a square
mm,
and then a rectangle up to a certain ratio.
mm,
So what we do is, if you want to meet those complex structures, we build separate structures. They are separate structurally, but uh, they are connected architecturally. So, um, so this way it makes building earthquake resistant.
right. That whole bit is a whole study by itself, I'm sure. But
Exactly.
so another question from Hari Priya. What kind of interiors can be done with these bamboo structures? And can bamboo be paired up with other sustainable building materials and modern technologies?
Um, yes, bamboo can be used with any other material. I've used bamboo with steel, I've used bamboo with glass, I've used it with earth, I've used it with stone. So anything's possible, you know. And what kind of interiors can be done for these bamboos? Amazing. It's it's it depends. It's your imagination is the limit.
Mhm.
It's can do anything. Yeah,
So that's a challenge for the designers to take on. And if you guys are really interested, I am really looking forward to you guys getting initiated with your own ideas. Okay, another question. This is from Preksha. Can bamboo be the future of regenerative design? How can we maintain bamboo products? How can we maintain bamboo products? Okay. Yes, Nepal.
yeah. Of course, that's how I see it. Bamboo is the future. It's really interesting because in the last World Expo, all the big industrial countries were building with bamboo. Like Germany built a pavilion with bamboo, India built with bamboo, China, Vietnam, Italy, Spain. And it was in the same expo about 100 years ago. They were building their pavilions with steel, you know.
Correct.
So they are understanding that bamboo is the future. And like our region, like we are sitting in bamboo mine, like there's so much bamboo, like. And I think as a see there's a bamboo is not investigated as much as it should have been. So there's no answer, like people ask me, how do you join bamboo? And I say it depends on where you are. So and it depends, like steel you can only join one or two ways, either you weld it or you put nuts and bolt, that's.
Mm,
But bamboo, it's an amazing material. You can tie it, you can, like, the exploration is not been there, it's not done. So it's up to us as designers to go and explore and create beautiful buildings. I think if we create beautiful buildings, then we inspire many people to build with it, right? As I told you, remember, like, perception is our limitation. If we can
mm.
change that, not there's sky's the limit.
Okay, and there's a final question on here. Shreya is very concerned about the sourcing and transportation for bamboo construction. You did mention a bit about it, but would you want to have your point of view as to how can bamboo be sourced and transported so that it reaches out to more corners of the country, or in our case at least, because India is so vast? What would you suggest?
See, bamboo is it's a grass. It's the same family as rice. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
wherever rice grown, bamboo is grown. Like, which is most likely like most of India except for Ladakh and um, and so yeah. So if we need to plant, and there's already, it's not a new species too. Like I'm always scared of introducing new species, but like bamboo is it's part of our culture.
Mm-hmm.
It's we have been using it for thousands of years. So we just like for maybe last 50-60 years we gave it a bad name, but we have the tools to celebrate this material again. So about the sourcing, yeah, like if you want to do your cost calculation or also your carbon calculation, but I am assuming in most part of India there's bamboo, so you can always transport that, and the cost should be much lower than the cost of steel or concrete. And also the problem is steel and concrete, it does not grow back, right? Bamboo grows back. So it's more you use, the better. Um, so I think that shouldn't be a problem, but I think if more people use it, more there's more designs, more people will start planting bamboo, and it's our carbon emission will be low. And bamboo is such an amazing material. It's got thousands of uses. It grows super fast. It's uh, it's strong. It's so we should be promoting it. I think it can do whatever steel can do.
It's been really been inspiring to see your belief in the material that you've been working with, and I'm sure this is going to be motivating for a lot of participants today and of course in future as well. Thank you very much, Ripal, for so generously sharing with us all your experience. We would really love to be in touch with you as well, to see figure out what more you'll be doing, and once the monastery is ready, please put it up on your website and do inform us. We'd love to see you, and if you are actually recording and documenting it, that would even be better. Meantime, let me thank all our participants for being part of this. I hope you really got something useful today. It's not just Nepal's a passion. You, of course, can feel that. But also, there's so much of useful information for you guys to encourage you to take the step forward, do that, figure out, and launch yourself into this space, this eco space, as I call it. So thank you very much. I do want to remind you, JS Institute brings to you this webinar only because our experts are so willingly coming forward. You do want to, they are ready to share, and we will be bringing more such speakers for you in future every second Thursday. Do go onto our website. If you need any more information, do contact us. In the meantime, please be safe. The situation is really, really grim outside with COVID, rampaging across the world, but it's really been bad in Delhi and many cities. I just won't say it's Delhi. Be safe, take care, and we'll see you again. Thank you, Nripal, so much.
Thank you, Niam.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.